Let's talk about George Pickens, because he did indeed arrive in Frisco at the Star for mandatory minicamp. There were a lot of questions about whether or not this was going to happen. I think we all felt like, okay, by training camp probably, but minicamp was the big question mark. For him to answer that in the positive and arrive in Frisco when technically he has to, but realistically he didn't have to, feels like a win for the Cowboys.
It's not a loss.
Yeah.
I mean, him not showing up would have just been a precursor to another drawn-out summer of will he show up for training camp, and all this. If you're showing up for mandatory minicamp, chances are you're going to show up for training camp. It would be weird to show up for what's happening in June and then skip what's the most important part. I will wait to kind of assess this until later in the week, because I do want to know what his level of involvement will be at minicamp. Is he going to be merely a spectator? Is he just showing up because he wants to be in good graces, but
I'm just here so I won't get fined?
Kind of, yeah. But, maybe just get mental reps in an offense that he was their leading receiver last year. But it's just it could have gone a much more sour direction. And it's a positive, net positive that he's there. Even if he doesn't do anything this week, I don't know if that really even matters. I think it signals that there's some level of, it's amicable.
Yeah. Well,
that's all you can really hope for in a situation like this.
But you brought it up. Micah was there last year too. Micah was at training camp.
What is weird?
Micah was there so badly that he threw on a helmet and went into and did stuff that he wasn't really supposed to, because it would have, if he got hurt, it would have been nuclear. But
and then he was more participative, if that's a word, at OTAs than he was at training camp. Mm-hmm. He was completely sedentary at training camp, but at OTAs was where he just couldn't help his itch and got out there and took part a little bit. So and that by itself was weird. That didn't really align with what you'd expect. But it does feel, this one feels different.
There was probably a conversation after that.
I imagine so.
Where his agent's like, Micah,
dude,
stop. It defeats the whole purpose of what we're doing. But yeah, with the Pickens situation, again, we've kind of talked about it for weeks now, just with the franchise tag. His situation's different. And it would have really, him skipping it would not have helped really in any way or form. Not only just with the Cowboys. He could have done it just because it makes him feel better about himself. But the Cowboys wouldn't have appreciated, doesn't put him in good standing, doesn't put him in a better position to get a long-term extension with them, and doesn't signal to other teams in the NFL, should he ever have to get traded or sign with a different team, you want as little drama around you as possible. And skipping a mandatory minicamp brings drama.
Yeah. Again, we've had this discussion for 2 weeks. I'm just happy that the physically present part is done, regardless of what he gets out of this. And we've kind of mentioned it enough on the mental reps aspect is what all of this is about anyway. So whether he takes the field, whether he participates, as long as he's around the offense and can help metastasize what was the best unit on the team last year, I'm happy with the result. I think most Cowboys fans would be just from that alone.
I also wonder where Pickens is from a mindset perspective and how Parsons' situation may inform his mindset and possibly even David Mulugheta's mindset, given that it is the same agent that is at the nexus of all of this. Is there any buyer's remorse? Is there any regret on Micah Parsons' side of the table with the way things went down last summer? You hear him still to this day talking about the Cowboys, talking about being in Dallas, talking about, the things that he enjoyed about being here. It has led me to wonder, did that really play out how he wanted to? He obviously wanted to get his bag, but did he want to go to the nuclear option of actually forcing a trade? And if not, and whether he does or not, does it inform George Pickens relative to how he wants to handle this? And is Pickens communicating to David Mulugheta, hey, we can play this game. We can do what we need to do to try and accentuate our position as best as possible, but don't mess this thing up because I want to be here.
I understand that point, but to me, if you're if you're trying to play a game to begin, and granted, that's all anybody does in terms of contract negotiations. I'm not suggesting that's not part of it, but like if you're already with a player that's basically saying, "Hey, fight," but with one arm tied behind your back, then don't go through the motions on it, right? Like that's part of this. Then show up, be part of the team, X, Y, and Z. If you're going to withhold yourself from that, where Mike is concerned, I get that sense, but I think he's also looking at it from a guy that's recovering from an ACL that didn't have the year with the Green Bay that he thought he was about to have last year, at least the way it shaped up 2 weeks in when they were basically world beaters, and then reality kind of struck in terms of where that team was actually situated. So had Green Bay gone on a run, we might have had a different vibe, but I also think throughout last year, it's tough when you are that divorced, and you didn't get the exclamation point, "We won in Dallas," or "They beat us." There was no resolution to that whole thing. It was a tie. The game just happened, and everyone kind of moved on in this weird anticlimax.
Well, both fan bases seem to feel like they won that trade.
Yeah,
The Packers and the Cowboys fans. They're very few to this day that are like, I miss Micah. I wish we had him, which is odd to me because I felt at the time, and I still feel it now. That was not the greatest trade for Dallas in terms of return. Especially with the timing of it. But from Micah's standpoint, Micah has family that are Cowboys fans. He still has his place here. I think he still wants to do a bunch of real estate investment in this area. So he's still tied to DFW and the Frisco area. And so, I think when you look at it, if he had the choice, if it was the same amount of money and the same contract length, if you gave him the option between the Cowboys and the Packers, I think he would pick the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But that's not how it played out. And to your point, you might be right there. With the, requesting a trade, it could have just been a tactic to try to, strong arm Jerry.
Right.
But it ended up, kind of backfiring a little bit. But in the end, he's still with a organization that has a storied, rich history in the NFL.
I would say they didn't trade him to the Jaguars,
right? Like he's,
which is a shot at Jacksonville, who's been really good lately, but still,
right.
It's still the Jaguars.
Yes.
He still has prominence, right? Like, it's not like you're going to some organization to kind of wither away. He is the focal point, was given the number one, and he's playing for the Packers. That's significant. It's not nothing. And the money's there. And again, with the NFL, during the season, he's going to be in Green Bay. But then outside of the season, he can go wherever he wants. And, I don't think he loses much by being there. So I think he's probably made peace with it at this point.
But to your point relative to negotiating with one arm tied behind your back, isn't that part of the equation though? Is do you like where you work or no? And if you do, that is the benefit to providing, if you're Jerry Jones, if you're Brian Schottenheimer, if you're Dak and CD in the locker room, providing a hospitable environment that he wants to return to. That's part of the Cowboys side of the negotiation, is providing that good space that you want to be in, that offense that you want to play in. If he were in a situation different from that where he didn't like the coach, he didn't like the offensive coordinator, and he's able to go to his agent and say, dude, whatever. Get me whatever the heck you can. Financially, that's all I really care about. And, oh, by the way, ideally a better situation, too, because I'd like to get the heck out of here. Mm-hmm. That's a completely different headspace to come into a situation like this from, as compared to, no, he's looking at this saying, hey, this is a good place for me to be. So, let's try and get as much as we can financially. Think about it just in our own walks of life, or anybody that's out there watching their job. If you like where you work, you're going to be more inclined to be like, all right, I wanted that extra whatever, but this is the place for me, so I'll make my peace with it.
It's the grass is not always greener, right? Like we have it in our mind, like, oh, I want to make this much more amount of money, but what are you also having to take on to make that little bit more, or that lot a bit more? It is always everything's transactional, right? And from his standpoint, he's got an unbelievable situation here. I think it really comes down to, do the Cowboys really want to pay two receivers? Do they really want to do that? And that might be the equation that they have to truly figure out, or are they just going to keep kicking the can and then let him go in a couple years.
Which is kind of the main question. It's like you got rid of Micah, you ditched him from financial reasons, and I keep bringing it up. This was an opportunity to not even have this discussion. You could pay Pickens, and I understand the Bengals have had their own issues trying to field a defense around paying 2 wide receivers. But, like, you can learn from that. It's not like they're paying out the wazoo on the defensive side of the ball right now anyway. So
they don't actually, with that point about the Bengals and their receivers, they can pay those 2 receivers. They just have archaic front office practices.
Fair.
That they don't restructure, and with their guarantees and their void years, they could easily have signed those 2 guys. The same way I think the Cowboys can sign George Pickens and have CD under contract and still be able to field a good defense. You can do it all. You just have to do the gymnastics required contractually.
And that's my point, is like there are avenues for this front office to have navigated this and not had this issue or had this hanging over even the last month or so. And instead, they opted down this route to try and either save money for another move or whatever, but like it just feels a little short-sighted.